Did you know that nearly 60% of motorcycle accidents involve riders who thought they were following the right rules? But here's the truth. A lot of that advice is complete BS, and worse, some of it can actually put you in danger. Today, we're breaking down 10 motorcycle rules that you should stop following immediately. Some of these myths come from outdated thinking, others were never true to begin with, and a few? Stick around if you want to ride safer, because we're about to bust some of the biggest riding misconceptions once and for all. Let's get into it. Number 1. You should always put both feet down at a stop. A lot of riders are taught that whenever you come to a stop, you should put both feet down to stay balanced. Sounds logical, but here's the thing. This advice is outdated and actually less safe in many situations. If you watch experienced riders, they almost always put just their left foot down while keeping their right foot on the rear brake. Why? Because it keeps the bike steady, especially if you're on an incline or stopping quickly. Dropping both feet means you're momentarily losing control of the rear brake, which can cause the bike to roll slightly or shift unexpectedly. Plus, if one of your feet lands on gravel, oil, or an uneven surface, you're way more likely to tip over. And that's a nightmare if you're on a heavy bike. Sure, there are times when both feet might be necessary, like maneuvering a massive touring bike or stopping on a super steep hill. But for regular riding, one foot down is the better move. It's what most skilled riders do, and it gives you more stability and control. Number 2. You should always stay in the center of your lane. A lot of new riders are told that the safest place to be on the road is right in the middle of their lane. The idea being that it makes you more visible to traffic and keeps you centered. But here's the truth. Sticking to the center can actually be one of the worst places to ride. Why? Because that's where all the oil, coolant, and other fluids from cars drip and build up over time. Ever notice those dark, slick streaks in the middle of the road? That's not just dirt. It's a slippery hazard that can send you sliding, especially in the rain. A smart rider adjusts their lane position based on the situation. Sometimes, riding in the left third of the lane makes you more visible to drivers and keeps you away from merging traffic. Other times, hugging the right third helps you avoid aggressive drivers or road debris. And sure, if you're on an empty back road with no traffic, the center might be fine. But making it a hard rule to always stay in the middle, that's bad advice. Number 3. You should never use your front brake in a panic stop. There's this old myth that grabbing the front brake in an emergency stop will send you flying over the handlebars, but that's just not how physics works. In reality, your front brake provides 70 to 90% of your stopping power. If you avoid it in a panic stop, you're robbing yourself of the best tool you have to avoid a crash. Think about it, if front brakes were that dangerous, why would manufacturers put massive dual disc setups on sport bikes? The real danger comes from grabbing the brake too suddenly, or using it incorrectly, not from using it at all. If you just yank it with full force, especially in a turn, yeah, you might lose traction. But if you apply it smoothly and progressively, your bike will slow down quickly and safely. Even professional racers rely almost entirely on the front brake when they need to slow down fast. The key is to learn how to use it properly, not to avoid it out of fear. Number 4. You should always ride in a staggered formation. If you've ever taken a basic motorcycle safety course, you've probably heard that riding in a staggered formation is the safest way to ride in a group. One rider stays on the left side of the lane, the next on the right, and so on. In theory, it gives everyone space while keeping the group tight. But here's the problem. This formation doesn't work in every situation. On straight highways, sure, it makes sense. But the moment you hit twisty roads, heavy traffic, or obstacles, that staggered formation can fall apart fast. If you're locked into a rigid formation and suddenly need to swerve around a pothole or react to a car cutting in, you might not have the space to do it safely. That's why experienced riders use dynamic positioning instead. Instead of sticking to a textbook formation, they adjust based on the road, speed, and traffic conditions. On curvy roads, they spread out. In tight traffic, they might go single file. The key is riding where you have the most control and visibility, not just blindly following a formation. Number 5. Loud pipes save lives. This is one of the most debated myths in motorcycling, and while it sounds convincing, the reality isn't as clear-cut. The idea behind loud pipes save lives is that if your exhaust is loud enough, cars will hear you coming and be more aware of your presence. But here's the problem. Most of the noise from your exhaust is directed behind you, not in front of you. That means by the time a driver hears you, you're already next to them or past them. And at that point, it's too late for them to react in any meaningful way. Modern cars are also more soundproof than ever, with thick insulation, music playing, and some even having noise-canceling features. If you think a loud exhaust is your main defense against distracted drivers, you're putting way too much faith in hope and volume instead of actual riding skills and safety tactics. Number 6. You should always follow the exact manufacturer break-in procedure. Every new motorcycle comes with a break-in procedure in the owner's manual, usually telling you to keep the RPMs low, avoid full throttle, and take it easy for the first 600 to 1,000 miles. The idea is that this helps engine components wear in properly. But here's the thing. Modern engines don't need babying the way older ones did. Decades ago, manufacturing tolerances weren't as precise, so parts needed time to smooth out through careful riding. But today, engines are built with extremely tight tolerances from the factory, meaning they're already basically broken in before they even leave the assembly line. In fact, some mechanics and experienced riders argue that a harder break-in, meaning revving the engine up and putting it under load early on, actually results in a stronger, better-seated engine in the long run. Riders who follow this method often report better performance, better piston ring sealing, and even less oil consumption down the line. Number 7. You must always use the clutch when shifting gears. A lot of riders are told that using the clutch for every single gear shift is the only proper way to ride, and that skipping it will damage the transmission. But here's the truth. Clutchless shifting is completely safe when done correctly, and it's something even professional racers rely on for smoother, faster gear changes. Most modern motorcycles have constant mesh transmissions, meaning the gears are always engaged, and the shift forks just slide them into place. When you time it right, rolling off the throttle slightly, and shifting up smoothly, you can change gears without the clutch, and without damaging anything. In fact, many riders find that clutchless upshifting is faster and smoother than using the clutch every time. Number 8. You should always grip the handlebars as tightly as possible. A lot of riders think that gripping the handlebars like their life depends on. It gives them more control over the bike. In reality, a death grip on the bars actually makes you a worse rider and can lead to some serious handling problems. When you hold on too tight, your arms and shoulders stiffen up, which means you can't react smoothly to bumps, corners, or sudden changes in the road. Instead of letting the bike move naturally underneath you, you end up fighting it, which makes steering feel awkward and unpredictable. This is especially dangerous at high speeds or when making quick adjustments, because stiff arms make it harder to countersteer properly. The best riders, whether it's MotoGP racers or experienced street riders, keep a relaxed but firm grip on the bars. Number 9. You should always park your bike in neutral. This one sounds harmless. Just leave your bike in neutral when you park, so it's easy to start up again. But parking in neutral is actually one of the easiest ways to set yourself up for disaster, especially if you're on an incline or rough pavement. Here's the problem. When your bike is in neutral, there's nothing stopping it from rolling. A slight incline, a gust of wind, or even someone bumping into it can send it tipping over, and no one wants to come back to their bike lying on its side. The right way to park? Leave it in first gear. This way, the engine acts as a brake, holding the bike in place and preventing it from moving unexpectedly. This is especially crucial if you park on a hill, uneven pavement, or anywhere your bike might shift even slightly. Number 10. You should always ride as fast as traffic. There's this idea floating around that matching the speed of traffic, no matter how fast it's going, is the safest way to ride. The logic? You'll blend in. Cars won't have to pass you, and you'll avoid being an obstacle. But here's the reality. Blindly matching traffic speed can be just as dangerous as riding too slow. First off, not all traffic moves at a safe or legal speed. If you're on a highway where cars are flying 20 miles per hour over the limit, do you really want to push your bike that hard just to keep up? Riding too fast reduces your reaction time, increases braking distance, and makes any mistake way harder to recover from. On the flip side, if you're in stop-and-go city traffic, sometimes moving slightly faster than the cars around you can help you stay visible and avoid getting boxed in. The key here is riding at a speed that keeps you in control, visible, and in the safest position on the road. Sometimes that means going a little faster to stay out of a driver's blind spot. Other times, it means backing off because the flow of traffic is too unpredictable. But blindly following the always match traffic rule, that's a one-way ticket to making bad decisions.